I'm so glad to be here with you today.
I'm so glad to be here. Okay, welcome to the Dissident Daughters Podcast. I can't believe we're actually doing this.
I know, it's about time. I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
It'll be good.
And I'm also really stressed out.
Yeah, it's
for some reason.
It's new.
Yeah. I just don't want to sound like a total idiot. But, so we are going to just introduce ourselves today and just kind of talk about why we're here and what we're doing. Right. So we are going to be doing a 10-part series, basically discussing all things Mormonism and our lives.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. Leaving a toxic...
Yes.
What do they call it?
Demand.
High demand. That's
toxic,
the word.
High demand religion. Yes. And just our whole journey is about that.
Right. Yes.
So we decided to call our podcast the Dissident Daughters Podcast.
Right.
And I looked up the definition for dissident, and it's a person who actively challenges an established political or religious system, doctrine, belief, policy, or institution. And that just feels like that describes us.
Well, especially you. You've been very outspoken on Facebook. You've been passionate about things that you care about, like the LGBTQ community. Yeah. And the mistreatment there. So you're more vocal about it. I aspire to be
like me.
Like you. Yes.
But we're both.
I'm still a little scared.
Pretty rebellious.
Yes, we definitely are rebellious for sure.
Yeah.
It's not like people don't know that we're out.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, I think we both have pretty interesting stories and backgrounds, but also maybe not that unique, right? Because I think a lot of people.
If you're a Mormon in Utah, then we probably have a ton in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're staying anonymous for right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to use our real names, partly because we have families still in the church.
Very active.
That are very active.
We want to be sensitive.
Yeah. But we also want to share our stories. So this is the way we've decided to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, we've come up with kind of a list of topics that we want to cover, but those might change over time. I don't know if we change our minds, but we do have so much to talk to you about. So, we wanted to kind of start out by introducing ourselves without our real names. So, I'm going to have you introduce yourself first.
Okay, so I was born to parents that loved each other, right? They're married in the temple, super active. I'm the oldest of 4. So I automatically had like that A personality. I wanted to be a pleaser, all of that good stuff. But okay, so in my family, we had family home evening every week. We did scripture study and family prayer every day.
Yeah, you guys were super devoted.
We attended it, yes. And my parents always held the big callings. Like my dad was always in the bishopric or in some kind of presidency. My mom was always in some kind of presidency. Uh-huh. When I was in Young Women's, she was Young Women's president. Uh-huh. So there was a lot of pressure to please, which is you want to do and check off all the boxes. There was the for the strength of youth pamphlet.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Way messed me up. I mean, I tried to do that to a T,
even
right?
To talk about it.
Yes.
I swear I'm going to break
so
out.
So bad. I know. Yeah. Sweat. I liked boys. When I hit junior high, I liked boys and boys liked me. Mm-hmm. And so by high school, I'd had a couple of serious boyfriends and we did all...
That's different from me because I really liked boys, but no boys liked me. There's some trauma around it. So we'll get to it.
So I had one steady boyfriend and we got into all sorts of trouble. And I did all the things you're supposed to do. I went to the bishop and confessed and was told... I read a scripture, something about, I don't know, next to murder. That's what sticks with me.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even had sex. I wasn't even sex. It was just like normal teenage behavior with a boyfriend I'd been with for a year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They probably used that word.
Next to murder, right? So that was really traumatizing.
So the bishop's office was like a revolving door?
I went several times.
Yeah. Okay.
And my boyfriend eventually sent him on a mission. Right? He shouldn't have gone. He was not worthy, quotation marks.
Yeah.
He was not worthy, but anyways, he went on a mission and left me. And so I tried to be, but I didn't, so I didn't have any friends. It was my boyfriend was my life. You can relate. You did the same thing. So after he went on his mission, I found another boy that I knew in high school who had been super kind and super nice, and we started dating, and I thought it would just be casual. But there was like some serious chemistry. Really, really liked him. He was not active in the church. And so I was trying to like drag him along.
To get
him
into
active,
the church.
right? Because that's what good Mormon girls do.
Right. He was Mormon, but his family was inactive.
Right. Yeah. Anyways, we ended up sleeping together after like a year. Okay, it wasn't a year.
It doesn't even matter. You don't have to justify anything.
It was 18. Went to the bishop, and this part stinks because the bishop told me I couldn't take the sacrament for 6 weeks, and I had to show up every week in order to read. And so every week he looked for me, and I sat there and didn't take the sacrament, and everyone looked at me, and I heard public shaming. I heard moms talking about me in the church hallways.
Oh my God.
Did you see she didn't take the sacrament? But I showed up every 6 weeks and did it. It was terrible. We ended up getting married, not in the temple. Huge public shame, right? My family was so upset. And I spent the next 20 years trying to
fix it. Like trying to make up for this mistake. I'm using air quotes.
I want to put the pretty picture together, the Mormon picture, right? So I got us to the temple. We went to church. We did all the things. We baptized our kids. Ended up having 5 kids because I felt pressured to have more kids. I am not equipped to have that many children. I don't like it. You like being a mother. It's been, you like it. It's you're amazing at it. I don't like it. I have to try. It's not something, my maternal thing. I don't like having, I love my children.
As a Mormon girl, you're supposed to have as many kids as possible.
Right. Yes.
So there's definitely that pressure to where you don't really get a choice. You didn't feel like you could do what you wanted to do. And of course, nobody's going to say, I hate my kids and I wish I never had them. But you would have chosen something different.
Absolutely. If I'd had the choices. Yeah. And some of my older kids now are like, I don't want to have kids. And I'm like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to have kids. Maybe you'll change your mind, but you don't have to. So we were trying to put on the perfect picture of a good Mormon family, holding the callings, going to church. Then my son, when 14, started dealing with depression, cutting, suicide attempts, and didn't want to go to church. Didn't believe in it at all. And that blew up my world. Yeah. Because my family wasn't going to be forever anymore. I couldn't pretend. I couldn't make the pretty picture anymore. And so that's when I started abusing Xanax, lots and lots of Xanax, and tried to take my life with Xanax and vodka one night. Wrote my husband a letter saying bye, and I'm so sorry. And then was really surprised when I woke up the next day. Oof. So that was, and I was doing it all by myself. Nobody knew.
How long was that going on? And did it start gradual and start getting worse over a period of time?
Yes, it was a good 12, 13 months.
Okay.
Started gradually. I started doctor shopping to get Xanax prescriptions.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I found doctors that would give me huge prescriptions of Xanax. Really? So I found it to be easy.
That was such a
it's a controlled substance, yeah.
But you were getting it. You were getting.
I could find it, and I knew what to say to get that.
Stockpiling it.
Okay. And I wasn't really abusing alcohol, but I knew that if I put vodka and Xanax together, it would be a really good cocktail. Yes, to just stop my respiratory, so I'd stop breathing.
Oh God. So you were trying to.
I was trying to die.
That was your suicide attempt.
Yes.
You didn't drink vodka with the Xanax all the time.
No.
That was kind of
But I knew that would do it. So I took a handful. I mean, a handful of Xanax, washed it down with the vodka, and I couldn't believe I woke up the next morning. And I carried on like everything was fine. But I knew I needed help. So I reached out for help. Started in intensive outpatient therapy.
Well, your husband recognized it. And was the one that was so supportive and picked up.
Absolutely. He knew that I was abusing Xanax. He just didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do. Because if he would have come to me and said, you need to cool it with the Xanax or whatever, I would have told him to go to hell. I was not in a good place to accept that. So
you would have been defensive. Don't tell me what to do.
Right, exactly. Right. But he put me in, helped me get into the outpatient therapy. I went every day for 3 hours for 3 months. And that completely changed my life. I think everyone needs therapy.
Yeah.
You know, you're loving therapy.
Oh, yeah.
That gave me some tools, and that's when I started really deep diving back into my childhood and why I reacted the way I did. And I started studying the church history, and all it took was a little peek at the CES letter. And I'd already doubted, like, how was it that you and I were so lucky to be born into the only true church? And it's less than 1% of the world population, and we're the only ones in the temple. Oh, I mean, we could unpack for days.
We are going to get into all the individual issues, but I think it's really interesting to talk about how, and I think we should do a whole episode about this, about the addiction and
because how
you turn to substances.
Yes, how many mothers are self-medicating?
So many.
But we don't talk about it because it's the shame, the guilt, the fear, that cycle.
Yeah, it's very hidden, and it's very prevalent in Mormon communities too.
Absolutely.
I know lots of mothers who are abusing Adderall.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like speed. It
gives you boost, right?
Yeah,
yes.
It makes you lose weight, and it makes you have tons of energy and all this stuff. It sounds really good.
Yeah, it does sound good.
I never have, but I'd like to. Can't get my hands on.
Well, that's like some of the other ones that I started opening up with you, and then you and I slowly started kind of deconstructing.
Well, do you think like your therapy made you stop and recognize that maybe there were some unhealthy things that you had grown up with, right?
Like, don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah,
keep everything tucked away, nice and private.
That did kind of make you start looking at the church as part of the problem,
I'm like, where did I learn? How have I learned to cope like this? And that's what brought me back to the way I was brought up. I had a lovely childhood. I had, it was great, but the toxic things you're taught in church to be perfect. Yeah. It's flat out to be perfect. Keep
secrets.
Absolutely, keep secrets. So.
Okay, so then you go through your therapy, and by the time you were done with therapy, were you like totally deconstructed the church, or you still had a long road?
I had 1 foot out the door.
Okay.
And I was starting to talk to my husband about it, and we were starting to really have an open conversation. He was never totally invested. He was doing it because he's like, well, this is a good place to raise kids. He'd never had like a testimony, but he held big callings.
He did.
Just, he did all of the things.
Yeah,
he went out.
Wasn't he the high priest group leader?
Yeah. At one point, executive secretary. He was the executive secretary at the time.
Okay, yeah.
So, but he was happy to step away with me. It was not that big a deal, and I thought it would be.
Yeah.
At first, at first he thought, this is a phase. I don't believe you. Like, he's waiting for me to say, just kidding. And I wasn't going to. My family's the same way, but it was easy because COVID hit, and then we couldn't go to church.
Yeah.
So it was super easy. We had some conversations with our kids. If you want to go to church, you can. But we want you to have choices.
Yeah.
We want you to really do what you want to do, which I never felt. When you're born into a high demand religion, there's no choices. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And you're never given that. Like, you're supposed to pray to get a testimony. So I tried all those things, reading the scriptures and praying. But because I wasn't getting the answer that this is true, the true church and stuff, I thought, I'm doing something wrong. Guilt, shame, fear.
There's something wrong with you, not the church.
Right. Why is this not? And I would look in sacrament meetings, I would look at the congregation and see all these good people around me and think, it must be me because these are good, smart people. But that's the indoctrination. So we kind of just stepped away, met with our bishop. He actually called us in to give us callings. But before that, he asked us where our testimonies were. And I told him.
Yeah.
And bless his heart, he's a brand new bishop, super nice guy. But he showed us the Michael McLean when he was lost for 10 years video.
Oh, no. Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it.
And I'm like, it's too late. I'm gone, dude. Yeah. I'm gone.
Michael McLean was different.
Well, what's interesting is he asked, well, how's your marriage?
Yeah.
Like, that's any of his damn business.
Yeah.
We'd never met him before.
Because he's making an assumption that if you're not in the church, your marriage is falling apart.
Right, because that's another thing growing up. If you leave the church, you're get divorced. If your spouse leaves the church, and, I watched your husband leave the church and how you struggled with that years before.
Yep.
And he didn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
And the building didn't fall down on top of him.
No.
So that kind of was like, okay, I'm watching this. And your marriage stayed intact.
Yeah.
So I was so glad to do it with you, to kind of walk through. Because once we really were out, then it was so easy.
That much in depth about our doubts or our questions.
Right.
Maybe like little tiny, you were dropping little
snippets.
hints. And yeah. But then once we both figured out that we both read the CES letter, we were like,
they're like, why didn't you send me that? Why didn't you ask me about that? I'm like, how could I?
Was behind you. I was later.
Yeah, I'm like, how could I send that to you? I don't know. It's just, I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to, because we're so close.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk every day, nearly every day.
Yeah.
And like, you know where all the bodies are buried?
Yeah. Yes.
So it was hard to keep that from you, but I was keeping it from everyone.
Yeah.
So, but it's been super fun to deconstruct with you.
Yes.
And do an experiment with alcohol, and it's just been fun to just deconstruct with my husband too. It's like a midlife crisis together.
I know. We're both so lucky because we both have our husbands and each other.
Yes.
And we've been able to do it all together.
Yeah, it's like a new relationship.
And do
in
we
some
share
ways.
how our husbands are?
Sure.
Okay, so our husbands are brothers.
Our husbands are brothers.
Okay to say that?
We're sister-in-laws for over 25 years. Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've known each other 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
And I would say we've been best friends at least probably the last 10 or 15 years.
At least a decade plus.
Yeah. And we do talk almost every day.
Yeah. And a lot of that, our bond is from a shared mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Who is
Which
crazy.
we have to do a whole episode on.
I'm sure no one else struggles with that. I'm sure we're the only ones that have
a crazy mother-in-law.
Kind of that's a good word. Crazy's good. I can think of some others.
But we're crazy too, so she's just at a different level.
Well, are we crazy or is she crazy? Someone.
I mean, we're not saying.
She's special. But it's just the two brothers.
Yeah.
And the mom.
And we're a huge disappointment.
Yes, we.
To the mom.
Which is almost verbatim what she said.
Oh goodness!
But it's fine. It's good.
So yeah. Okay, so that brings us to your modern present day.
Present day, yes.
Present day.
Modern day pioneers, lazing my way out of the Mormon Church.
Okay, so I will introduce myself. So I a lot is the same as you.
I mean, even the missionaries. We sent missionaries. We had serious missionaries. We sent out. I mean, we have so many things in common.
And that was traumatic.
Oh, abandonment issues. Huge.
Abandonment issues forever. So yeah, I grew up in a very Orthodox family, huge family, 9 kids in my family. One of the main differences is that my parents hated each other.
Right.
Like literally hated each other. There was never, I had zero inclination, and I could not figure out why they were even married. How they ever got married, it's just like blew my mind because they hated each other.
Yeah.
I never saw affection. I never saw kind words. I never saw laughing.
You thought that was marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never saw any connection, laughing, even talking, just having a conversation.
Holding hands, never.
Never. And so my family was the like classic faking it family.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, so we would go to church and everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom held all the big callings. My dad, not as much, but he did. He was just a very quiet person. He wasn't like a typical leader like my mom always seemed to be. So it seemed like everywhere we moved, she got put in the Relief Society presidency, the Young Women's presidency, the primary presidency. She did everything.
That was her personality.
Society.
Yeah,
she was
she's
super
president. Outgoing.
Yeah, she's super outgoing.
And she has a big personality.
Very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's a great leader. So she did that really well.
Yeah.
She was always, and she had tons of friends, and everyone loved her. And people would constantly say to me, when she was the Young Women's president, and I was in Young Women's, so we had that.
Yeah, that too.
They would say, "Oh, I wish your mom was my mom."
And you're like,
and I was just like, you have no freaking idea.
Oh, shoot.
No freaking idea.
Yes.
So she was very happy and all in on the church, and then she would come home and scream at the children. Like, literally verbally abuse us always.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just a mean and horrible person. And you know, now that I'm older, I recognize that she just wasn't happy with her life. She doesn't actually hate us. She actually hates herself.
Yeah.
She hates herself and her own life. And so she took it out on us.
Right.
She did all the things that she was supposed to do, and it didn't make her happy.
Right.
And so she's like, why am I not happy? It must be my kids. They're disappointing me. They're not making me happy. So she became a mom for the wrong reasons, really.
Right.
Honestly. But
and she was dealing with her own trauma from a difficult,
she
hard
was
childhood.
She was completely.
But instead
abused.
of dealing with it, she
projected.
Yes.
And so, so I grew up that way. I was a very obedient child. I never wanted to ruffle feathers or cause any issues. And I was sort of in the middle, but on the top end of the middle, because there's 9 of us. There's 1 million children.
So many.
So I always wanted to be I was a people pleaser.
Right.
I always wanted to be perfect and not make my mom or dad mad. And so I always did the right thing. And I also believed in the church. I never had any doubts. I never had any questions. I was all in, which is embarrassing to say now because
That's all you knew.
I know. And I thought it was a gift.
Yes.
I actually thought it was one of my spiritual gifts.
Okay.
That I was such a strong believer that I just trusted and had so much faith.
Right.
I never questioned. So I wanted to do the exact, prescribed thing. I wanted to do all the right things. And so even from a young age, I wanted to serve a mission and I wanted to teach the gospel and I wanted to bring other people. So, but like you, I dated a guy for a year, a little over a year, and then sent him on his mission. And we totally thought we were going to get married. I mean, we talked about all the things.
Yes.
And we tried very hard to be good. And it was a revolving door at the bishop's office. And we were constantly trying to repent and feeling guilty for all the things.
I'm so mad when I think about that.
Oh, it makes me so mad too. It's so...
What a joke.
What a joke, right? We felt so guilty about just being regular
natural
teenagers.
Behavior. Yeah. Everyone has those feelings. Yeah. It's so stupid to villainize those.
Completely.
And then what that does to us after we're married, whatever. It's like a whole nother...
Everything to do with sex.
Right.
We're going to have a whole episode
the sex thing, yeah.
Yeah, so he went on his mission, total abandonment issues from then on out. I was a mess. It was a total disaster. So... let's see, I would have been 19. And at that time, they went on missions at 19.
Yes.
I couldn't go on my mission till 21.
Right, women had to wait.
Yeah, and so, and I was a little bit older than him, actually. So the timing worked out that I would leave on my mission 6 months before he got home. Mm-hmm. Well, what I didn't plan on is meeting somebody while he was gone. And then totally falling in love with somebody else, and then being like, okay, well, I still have to go on my mission.
Right, this isn't the plan.
This is the plan.
Right, we got to check this off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, again, with this new person, revolving door at the bishop's office, and we had so many terrible experiences. Like bishops asking very specific, weird questions. About weird stuff that I'd never heard of.
Oh, really?
Because
we were
so
sheltered.
Have you done this? And I'm like, no.
See, I'm grateful I never got that.
I was very naive.
Yeah.
But they would ask the most intrusive questions.
Right.
I mean, we still talk about it and laugh about it. I can't believe, and I can't believe we thought that was normal. And it was okay.
It was okay.
We felt like we had to answer these questions.
Right. Yes.
We were just trying
he deserves to, you have to answer whatever he asks, because he's the man in charge of you. There's a man in charge of you.
Yeah. So we really did try. We never had sex, but, we tried. But it was very difficult. Well, obviously, it was very difficult.
I mean, going back, how miserable.
I know.
This is a person you're in a relationship with that you love.
You should be able to show it.
It's not like you're a kid. You're of age.
Yeah.
It's just normal to want to express your love with someone you love. It's so stupid.
That messed me up bad.
Yeah. But you did it. You guys did not have sex.
No, we did not have sex. And I went on my mission.
Yes.
Which then in turn I turned around and gave the trauma, the abandonment issues
to this new boyfriend. Yes.
Yeah. I got out on my mission. I had some really great experiences on my mission. I don't regret my mission, but I was shocked at how hard it was.
Yeah.
Incredibly hard, incredibly difficult, incredibly kind of soul crushing a little bit. And
a lot of rejection, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it just rejection all day long?
Mm-hmm. And definitely, like, you have to basically lose your identity, your personality, your individual traits. You have to, like, you become a robot. You become, like...
You conform.
It's really weird how missions, when you get on your mission, everyone talks the same. They talk like...
They dress the same.
Very specific cadence. Like in General Conference, how all the general authorities talk the same. It's the same on your mission. Like, I got there, and it's like, why are all these people, like, talking like that? And then you start doing it, too. Because... You're just part of, you just join
You're trying
machine.
to fit in the box. Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
It's kind of cult-like.
Oh,
Cult.
You think?
Cult.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, it's very much like that. So, went on my mission, only lasted about 5 months before I was like, I can't do this. I can't do it.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you express that? How do you say, I gotta go home?
You know what's funny is I used my boyfriend at home as an out, because before I left, they were like, you know, maybe you should get married. Like the leadership, like my bishops.
Right, because you're a girl.
Yeah. They're like, you know, you don't have to go on a mission. You can get married.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're a girl. You should get married and have babies right away.
Yes. And I was kind of pissed off at the time of him, like, being like, why don't you guys just get married? Because we kept having to go in and confess about messing up.
Right.
And he's like, you guys should just get married. And I'm like, no, I'm going on a mission. This is the plan. I'm already doing this. So then I was like, well, this sucks. I want to go home and get married now.
Tried it. Not for me.
Yeah, I think I definitely use that kind of as an out. Like, I know that I can go home and get married and it won't be looked down upon. So I kept, like, having these thoughts of, like, maybe, you know, I wonder if he still wants to marry me. I wonder if we could, you know, do this. So I went and talked to my mission president because I felt guilty about having those thoughts, right? And I was like, dude, I probably didn't call him dude, but... You know.
President dude.
I am really struggling to keep my mind on my mission. I keep thinking about my boyfriend at home and how much I want to marry him. And I thought that I was going to get this giant lecture and he was going to be like, keep your mind on your mission, sister.
Right. You got to finish this.
All the things. And no, he didn't. He said, well, does he want to marry you too? And I said, I mean, I think so. I haven't talked to him in a while. Been on my mission. This was before you could talk to your mission.
Right.
Talk to your family every week. This was back in
letters
the days
only.
Of just writing.
Yes.
Yeah, we hadn't talked at all. And he's like, well, maybe give him a call and see if he wants to marry you too. And if he does, then I'll have a plane ticket for you tomorrow.
Okay. This is crazy.
Right.
Because if this was a boy coming in and saying, I want to go home and get married, that would not have been the response. So, the patriarchy is a whole nother evil thing that is showing itself right here.
Right.
Well, you should go home and get married then, because that's what girls are supposed to do.
I didn't expect that response. I really didn't. I was shocked, but I was also so happy.
Relieved, I'm sure.
So relieved. So happy. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch more to that. But I came home. We got married 35 days after I got home.
Yep.
In the temple! Woo-hoo! In the temple, and we made it just barely by the skin of our teeth. We probably weren't really as worthy as I think we probably should have been.
I imagine most couples are that way.
Yeah, and we felt guilt for years.
Oh, I can't even.
Years.
Yeah. You're punishing yourself over and over and over.
Yeah, that messed us up. It really did. So yeah, I feel like my introduction is going on way too long. So
I like it though. It's good.
Okay.
No, don't hurry. Just keep going.
So we have 4 kids, and I stayed at home for a little while. I worked from home. I kind of went back and forth, but I've kind of worked and stayed at home.
But being a mom was your priority. It was your number one priority.
Being a mom was definitely a priority. And I do love being a mom. And I think I would have, I don't think I would have done something different there. But I definitely used, because my husband probably didn't want 4 kids. Well, for sure he didn't.
Well, he didn't,
Yeah. So I totally had to convince him.
Yeah.
Like, it took a lot of work. But we had 4 kids. Our oldest son, at around 13, 14, started really struggling with the church and started fighting us on going. Like, he just did not want to go. Mom, I don't want to go.
Well, he was having deep, thoughts.
Oh, yeah. But he wasn't sharing a lot.
He wasn't sharing at that time.
No, at that time, he was just like, I don't think this, I don't want to go to church. It was just, I don't want to go.
Right.
I don't want to go. Yeah. And we had a feeling that like his friends were influencing him.
Right.
And
Satan's got a hold of him.
Bad things.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was digging in my heels and I was dragging him to church. I was like,
got to keep the picture.
I don't care how you feel.
Right.
When you live with us, you go to church. That's what you do.
Because that's what the church tells you to do. You get those kids to church. Yeah. You got to save them.
I know.
Got to get to the celestial kingdom.
Yep. And I remember thinking, I wish I could just pour out some of my testimony into my son so that he could feel what I feel, and then he would get it, and he would be on board.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you want to fix it.
Yeah.
Mothers, we want to fix it.
We want to fix it because there really is this pressure for our kids to follow the path, right? Like we have to make sure that they're doing all the things. Otherwise, we look bad.
You look bad.
And I don't even think I cared that much about my my reputation, about how I looked, but I genuinely thought that I was a failure if he didn't follow the path. Absolutely. So yeah, we battled that for a year or two, and it really crushed our relationship. Like he hated us. We were like, okay, well, if you don't go to church, we're taking away your phone, or we're taking away your this, or we're grounding you, or we're doing that, all kinds of like punishments. And it was like we were like putting the ropes around him tighter and tighter and tighter to try to control him. Right. And it got worse and worse and worse. The more you pushed, the more he pushed back. Oh my gosh. He could not he did not want to be controlled. And that was just his personality. Yeah. He was always that way. Even from the time he was a toddler. Right. He is my difficult child.
He knew what he wanted.
Love him, but he has to do things.
He has his own ideas, his own way.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
Not be forced to do anything. So so eventually I kind of had this epiphany of like, well, I'm either going to have a child who goes to church every week and hates me, or I'm going to have a child who I allow to do what he wants to do, and we might be able to have a relationship. Right. And so at that time, my husband and I, we talked a lot about it, and it was causing a rift in our marriage. Absolutely. Even. It was such a mess. Like and I was resentful of him. Like, you're ruining the spirit in our home. You're ruining everything. Yes. This child
went right through that with my son too.
Yeah, with your son too. So we finally decided, okay, we're letting him make his choice. And it was like, once we said, okay, you don't have to go to church, he never went to church again. Right. And I accepted it, but I definitely let him know that I was disappointed. Like, I didn't fully let it go. Sure. I was definitely still making him...
Well, you're hoping that eventually he'll come back. Yeah. Like, eventually you can fix this. Right now, you're just you're having a little break. Uh-huh. You can fix this. Maybe he'll see the light on his own and come back.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. You never like actually let go of your expectation.
It's just another form of control. Yeah. By stepping back a little bit. Yeah. Then you're like, maybe you'll see the light and come back on your own.
Yes. And I'll just be a really good example to you of how you should live.
But our kids are smart.
They're not dummies.
Our kids are smart.
Yeah. And I only realized later that he knew a lot more than we knew he knew.
He had researched, right? He had looked into the church history.
Yes. Yeah. And he knew all the things, and he didn't share it with me because he knew, and he's no dummy.
You weren't there.
He knew that I wouldn't have been able to accept it.
Right.
Yeah. So then, I don't know, a few years later, I lose track of how many years went by, but a couple years later, then my husband tells me I don't have a testimony, and I never have. And I've just been going along, doing all the things, hoping that eventually it would click. He's like, I've done everything. And now at this point, I'm kind of just pissed off that God isn't answering my prayers. I'm not feeling the Spirit. I'm not getting a testimony. Which I was surprised because, I knew that he wasn't in it like I was in it. Right. I knew that he didn't love church like I
But to say I've never had a testimony.
To say he had never had a testimony.
That's got to be devastating.
He served a mission. Yeah. He had big callings too. He always served. He was in the bishopric. I guess executive secretary.
Whatever, yeah.
That's technically in the bishopric. But he did that probably 3 different times in our marriage. He was in the young men's presidency. He was in the elders quorum presidency. In fact, so he told me he didn't believe. I just begged and pleaded to just not give up.
Yeah, you agonized over that. It was terrible.
Yep. I just said, please do not give up. Please keep praying, keep reading the scriptures. I'm going to help you.
Yeah. You're going to fix it.
I'm going to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have enough of a testimony that it will make up for his lack.
Right. You're going to drag him to the celestial kingdom.
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming. It's going to happen. You'll fix him. You'll fix this.
Totally. So
how'd that work out?
Shortly after that, yeah, I know. Shortly after that, it was probably like a year of that kind of, trying, like having conversations, but him not being open with like the church leaders and stuff about it.
Right.
But, like struggling. And then he gets called in the Elders Quorum presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what am I going to say? He knew a big calling was coming because the stake has to meet with you.
Where's the discernment from these people that are calling him?
I know, right?
Like, they're supposed to be
their only
inspired.
Yeah. Their only discernment was, hey, this guy always says he'll do whatever we ask.
Say yes, and he's available.
Yeah, he's available.
He's a warm body.
He always says yes. And he did. He
Yes.
always said yes, and he always served faithfully. But no discernment. So the stake calls us in, and we didn't know what it was going to be for. But, of course, the stake doesn't call you in unless it's a big thing. And so he's like, what do I do? And I said, you got to tell him the truth.
Right.
Tell him how you feel. And then you have to decide. If you're willing to take the calling even without believing, that's fine. But you need to tell him the truth.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what he did.
That's brave.
Yeah.
I think that is really brave.
Was brave. And the stake president was shocked.
Yeah.
He had been our previous bishop. Great guy. Really close.
So he knew you guys.
He knew us really well. It wasn't just some random stake president. He knew us. He had been our bishop. So he was fantastic, but he was shocked. He was just like, wow, I didn't know that you were struggling. So he told him, I'm willing to serve, but you need to know that I don't have a testimony.
Wow.
So the stake president said, okay, well, I'm going to get back with your bishop, and we'll decide if we do for sure want you to serve, and we'll get back with you. Next day, he calls back, yeah, we still want you to serve.
Of course.
Because you're still a warm body.
Because you're a warm body and you're breathing, and you said yes, yeah.
So my husband was a little sad about that. He wanted them to say, we don't want you.
Yes.
But he really still, he still felt all the pressure to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he still served. He was in the elders. He did a whole year in the Elders Quorum presidency. And I think we must have talked about that. I think he said, I'll do a year and then we'll see.
Yeah.
And so after the year mark, he's like, nope.
I don't know how he did that.
Not working. I'm out. So yeah, he went back in and said, hey, I can't do this anyways. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So he got released and never went back to church. Mm-hmm. So that started, us, me really struggling.
You were digging in now, right?
Oh yeah, I was digging in. I was trying to save my whole family.
Right.
Single-handedly.
Yes, you were.
I'm like, all my family's dropping off, and I've got to fix it all. Mm-hmm. So I was being ultra righteous and wanting to go to the temple all the time.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And I turned into the word project, like the person that people felt sorry for,
mm-hmm.
right? Because my husband said, I don't want to be a project. Please do not send people to my house. Please do not try to reactivate me. Like, I do not want to be a project. Right. So they turned their efforts on me. And every time I'd go to church, people would come up to me and do the head tilt.
The head tilt.
How are you?
The pity look.
How are you doing? You're
sympathy.
So brave. You come here every week all by yourself. Dude, I spent every Sunday crying. It was the worst. Everybody made me cry. Everybody made me feel like I was, I don't know, broken and
doing something wrong, maybe
something
not good enough.
It's like I had, cancer on my face,
mm-hmm.
and they'd see me and they'd immediately feel sorry for me. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants people to feel sorry for them.
Right.
Nobody wants.
Especially week after week after week.
It's terrible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm dragging my other 3 kids to church every week and being
by yourself.
By myself. And I'm watching these other families. I remember very specifically certain Sundays where there was this family in my ward. They were young. They just had little kids. Mm-hmm. And the husband, and they would all wear matching clothes.
Oh, that Mormon family.
Yes. They had the matching clothes. And they had 3 little tiny baby kids. And they would come to church and they'd all sit together and they looked perfectly happy. And I would just bawl. Mm-hmm. I would look at them and I would just bawl. Mm-hmm. It just made me feel broken. Like, I'm not doing it right. I'm completely failing. Here's my family, my daughter's 1 foot out.
Right.
My oldest daughter was 1 foot out. I knew it. I could feel it. I could sense it. I just knew it. But she was like me, a people pleaser, and just trying to do all the things.
Go through the motions.
She would go through the motions, and I could feel could feel it from her. She was not in it. So, okay, this is going so long. I'm so sorry.
You're okay. No, you're good. This is your story.
Then my second daughter in May of 2019 came out to me as gay.
That was hard. That was hard for you because you didn't see it coming.
Yeah. That just like blew my mind. Never saw that coming. Never saw any. Yeah, I just didn't. I had no idea. And I did not react well. I mean, I probably didn't react as terrible as some people do.
Well, hindsight, you maybe would have done things different.
Totally
but I don't think it wasn't terrible.
I mean, I didn't reject her and kick her out like some parents do. Yeah. But I definitely, I questioned her. I was like, are you sure? I don't think you really are, you know? I definitely was like trying to talk her out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
trying to talk her out of it.
You don't really know, do you? I mean, you've just been hanging around other gay kids, so you think you're one of them.
Right.
Yeah, I tried to talk her out of it, and so she said she was bisexual. So I said, oh, great. Well, then you can just choose a man. This is no problem.
This makes it so much easier.
No problem. You just have to choose the right.
And she was invested in the church.
She really was. Yep.
Yeah.
She was fully in, not like my other daughter who was 1 foot out. She was fully in, had a full testimony, very, very spiritual child, always was. Always wanted to be, super, I don't know, super righteous,
she wanted a close relationship with God.
Yes.
And she's naturally just very empathetic and kind to people. It's
just her nature.
Yeah, that's just who she is.
Yeah. I think she always had a very spiritual nature. So that kind of started really my world blowing up. And I started, I came around. So my initial reaction was not great, but I started just like voraciously studying everything I could, trying to learn more about what it means to be in the LGBTQ community and how that affects their lives and how the church is with them, you know? And so I read books, I listened to podcasts, I was just, very faithful, only faithful stuff.
Right.
Like, because I was like having so much cognitive dissonance about how the church teaches us to feel about gay people. And that did not line up with how I felt about my daughter.
Was your shelf starting to get full?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. And the gay thing was just overloading it. And I could look at my daughter and say, there is absolutely nothing wrong with her. And she's not wanting to sin.
She's a good person.
I had this idea that gay people just wanted to be gay and that they wanted to sin.
Well, it's a
how dumb is that?
We're taught that it's a trial they have to overcome.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. And you being you is not a trial that you have to overcome.
It's not a weakness.
No.
Yeah, so that was really just messing with me because I'm looking at my daughter saying she is so great and perfect and wonderful and good intentions and good to her absolute core. There's no part of her that wants to sin, quote unquote. So, so that caused a whole thing. So I probably, over the next 9 months or so, my testimony was very, very shaken.
It started to get fragile.
I was becoming very nuanced. And
yes.
here's how I felt. I felt like the church is wrong about some things. They've made some mistakes, but it's still the true gospel. It's still Christ's church. It's the gospel is real. The culture is not.
Right. Yes. It's all the culture, the Utah culture, and you're going to stay in it.
Yes.
And try to fix it from the inside.
Yeah. I started thinking, I'm just a progressive Mormon.
Yes.
I'm going to be an ally in the church. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to be vocal. I'm going to help other people who are gay. I'm going to make them feel like this is okay.
Right.
We still love
You're
them.
You're going to challenge the system, hopefully make some good changes.
Yes.
Still be part of it.
Yes. That was totally where I was.
Yeah.
For the next 9 months, I was just trying to find all the ways to be a really good, righteous Mormon, but also maybe stir the pot just a little bit to make people think.
Yeah.
And make people come around.
Be an advocate.
Advocate for these kids who are really struggling. Because my daughter was struggling. I mean,
she suffered from depression. Like you she really struggled for like a year, right?
Yes. And that was actually before she came out.
Yes. So you knew something was wrong.
I knew something was wrong. She was really struggling. She was like spending all day, every day in her room. She was very, just like reserved, not telling me, withdrawn. Yeah, that's the word. So once she came out, it actually started to turn around, and she started to, and when I started to come around and be more affirming and loving, and I did eventually get it right, where I was like, honey, there is nothing wrong with you. You are exactly perfect.
That's all that matters.
And I just want you to be you, and I want you to be happy.
What's sad is the stats in Utah for LGBTQ teens, the suicide rate is ridiculously high.
It's ridiculous.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's high in Utah across the board, but it's higher for LGBTQ youth.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is no question in my mind that the church is what contributes to that.
Absolutely.
Or any religion. All religions, well, maybe not all religions, but a lot of religions
them
contribute to shame and guilt around sexuality.
But where Mormonism is the main religion here in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
There's no way there's not a correlation between the number of suicides.
You can't deny it.
Yeah. Mm-mm. And I was very aware of that. And like, there's no way I'm losing my child over this. She will not feel worthless and shame.
Do you think the church kind of puts the pressure on to choose your child?
Oh, absolutely.
Or the church?
Yeah.
So if you have a gay child, you need to decide.
Yeah.
You have to pick.
And I thought in the beginning that I could choose both.
Right.
I thought that I could do both. I thought that I
could
be in the church and love my child. But when I really learned the damage that the church does and continues to do and has done in such insidious, like calculated ways, I could not. Because my support of the church is a direct contradiction to loving my child, is what I realized over time. It was like, that's such a contradiction. I can't.
Well, the church is trying to have it both ways. They're trying to say, we will love the sinner and hate the sin. I hate that saying.
I hate that saying.
The church is trying to have both, and they can't.
They say the right things sometimes. They say, we love you, we want you to be a part of us, but their actions are so opposite. You know, excluding them in every possible way they can.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just recognized that I could not be in both places. So that was really the main thing, and I learned about the church's money, and we're going to have to do a whole podcast on that.
Oh,
it's
the
just,
money, the tithing.
The money, I just can't. And so my money was going to fight against gay rights. I just couldn't do that. So I think that in connection with the pandemic, and at that same time, I read Untamed, probably March, April-ish of
Untamed
2020.
by Glennon Doyle. It's fantastic.
It was life-changing.
Yeah.
Literally life-changing. I feel like it all happened in like one giant moment of clarity where I was like, I don't have to do this anymore.
You can choose.
I can choose.
You get to choose.
And I'm going to choose me and my family and not an organization that's hurting us. So I did that, and then I read the CES letter. So I knew the CES letter existed.
Right.
And I purposefully avoided it until I was like, I've made my decision, so maybe the CES letter will just validate that decision. And I did, and it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I read that, and it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah. The CES letter, there's also a letter to my wife.
Yes.
Which is very powerful.
Yes. Very powerful. And it just gave me the permission, because I knew it. I knew the church was not healthy and that it was hurting me and that we needed to step away. But I didn't know the church was an absolute fraud. You know, I had little inklings of issues. I mean, I read Rough Stone Rolling and I read all the issues with Joseph Smith, but I still defended him to a certain degree. I was like, okay, Joseph Smith had all these faults and he had problems, but he was still the prophet, and God needed him, and God worked through him we still had to restore the church, you know, blah, blah. And we can get into all of the history of the church.
Right.
I'm sure we will.
I mean,
do
when you
multiple
dig
episodes
into
about
Joseph
that.
Smith, it's just disgusting.
It's the absolute rabbit hole of rabbit holes.
Oh my gosh, he's a sick,
It's
but smart man. He set this all up. Yes.
Conniving con man. Yeah, so reading the CES letter just validated all the feelings I was having of cognitive
that kind of maybe
dissonance,
put it to bed, right? You're like, this is it.
Totally put
I'm
it to
done.
bed. Yeah. And I called my bishop. This is when church was not happening. We were having sacrament at home and all that stuff, right? I called my bishop. I said, I got to come meet with you. He's like, okay, great. I remember we were wearing masks, the whole thing. And bumping elbows instead of shaking hands. It was just this really bizarre thing. And I went in there and I said, I'm out. And initially I said, I don't want to tell you all the things I've learned because I don't want to hurt your testimony, but I'm out. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Tell me. And so I just vomited. I vomited everything out for 45 minutes. I told him everything I'd learned.
He asked.
And you know what? He's a friend.
Yeah.
He was a friend. He wasn't a brand new bishop. He'd been there for a while. We'd been good friends.
Yeah.
And I just said, I want no contact. No, if you want to be my friend and you want to call me or text me as a friend, that's fine. I do not want any official church contact. I do not want visiting teachers.
Don't make me a project.
Sisters or whatever.
Yeah.
I want nothing. And I said, I'm going to let my kids choose how much or little contact they want with the church, but that's where I stand. At the time, I still thought, if my kids still want to go to church, it's fine. I feel differently now.
Yeah.
Because now I feel I have to protect them from
church. That, yes. Because it's and I think I'm more willing to let my kids make their choices because I know where they're at.
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, you can choose, but make these choices based on, I want you to really be educated. Let's know everything. Let's keep open dialogue.
Yeah.
And I trust them.
Yes.
I trust them, but if I ever saw them maybe reactivating or I think we'd have some conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of your kids kind of left with you, or?
Yeah. My oldest was away at college. And she was relieved. She was like, thank God. I don't want to fake this anymore. I've been doing this for you guys. She's such a people pleaser.
Surprising to you because you thought she was fully in.
Right. And then she was able to come out to us and say, hey, I might like girls. And based on your experience with and how you had wished it had gone differently, I was able to have a really good conversation with her.
Yeah.
I don't know it would have gone that way had you not shared your experience with me.
Yeah.
So, and then my 3 smaller children, they enjoy the activities of young women's, young men's. They don't always go, but if it's something fun they want to go, it's great.
Yeah.
Widen their friend
your
group.
youngest daughter went to girls' camp, right?
She went to girls' camp, had a great time.
But also, isn't your sister the young women's
tricky
president?
because my sister is young women's president. We're in the same ward.
Yeah, it's tricky.
So it's tricky.
But yeah.
My other sister's Relief Society president in her ward.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I don't think I knew that. Oh.
And then,
because your mom used to be the Relief Society president.
She's been it several times.
Several times, yeah.
So and then my brother and his wife are very active. Yeah. She's in Relief Society presidency. He's holding a calling. Yeah. Very active. And I'm, the odd man out. Yeah. I'm the black sheep.
Yeah, you're the only black sheep in your family.
Right.
So in my family, of the 9 kids in my family, there is only 2 that are still in the church.
Of 9, yeah.
Of 9. One passed away.
Right.
So of 8, there are 6 out and 2 in. And both of my parents are still very much in. Mm-hmm. They're divorced now. I don't think I said that. But, they hated each other. Right. They stayed married for 31 years. And finally divorced. My dad's remarried. My mom has stayed single. My mom got back from a mission about a year ago. She went on a mission. She's retired now, traveling, still fully in the church, but not living her life.
Your mom is extremely complicated.
My mom's extremely complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I told my kids that we were out and that I would allow them to choose, my oldest daughter, who had been 1 foot out, was so relieved.
Yes.
There was actually a visual, looking at her, I saw this giant weight lift off of her. It was incredible.
Now you can let her be. And how does your relationship change after that?
Oh, way better.
You think you have good relationships with your kids, but when you allow them to actually be who they want to be, they don't have to fake it anymore.
And talk about all the things that in the church you can't talk about.
Yes. Things got better in my, we just felt closer as a family. We were actually spending time together with each other on Sundays.
Yeah. actually enjoying that time together.
Yeah.
Not forced family home evening and forced...
Yeah, we're not rushing off to meetings and spending all these hours at church. And so we would go and do stuff together.
Yeah.
And we would sleep in and make breakfast together and
watch movies.
We'd go shopping on Sunday. And that takes work. The first time I wore a tank top, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you've gone your whole life saying that is evil. Porn shoulders are not okay. All of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we've kind of branched out as a family.
Yes.
And grown closer because of it.
Same with us. Yeah. It's been so good.
Yeah.
And I think my daughter who came out as gay, she took the longest. My youngest isn't even baptized. She, when we left, she was turning 8 that year. And she's like, nope, I don't want to. I don't care. She was totally fine. But my middle daughter, she stayed the longest. But when she started doing her own research, she realized
she was out quick.
Yeah, it didn't take her that long.
Because she had it enrolled in seminary and then unenrolled in seminary.
Yes. Yeah, I think she went to 1 day of seminary her junior year, and then she's like, nope,
not for me.
Not for me
Good
anymore.
for her.
And I think the biggest thing for her was the money too, how the church was spending their money to fight against gay rights.
Yeah.
And it's huge. It's everywhere. You can see it. If you look into it, members of the church don't know how much the church is literally throwing money at legislation.
They are going to
their lawyers.
Extreme lengths.
Oh, extreme lengths.
To shut it down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To shut down gay marriage, to shut down equal rights for gay people in the workplace. It's
very sad.
Yeah. It's bad. So... we've been going over an hour, I think. So we should probably end this. But I think that's a pretty good introduction to who we are.
And it's just started.
Yeah, we have lots of topics we want to cover. Yeah. So we're going to do a 10-part series, and so I hope you'll come back and listen to more episodes. Hopefully we weren't super boring. I don't think we're boring. I think we're pretty entertaining.
I think we're adorable.
I think we are adorable. We're fun. You guys will really like us. So I don't know how to end things. Just to say, we'll see you next time, I guess.
See you next time.